welcome to WarrenThornton.com. We have a packed show for you tonight because we had, shall we say, one or two problems. And we had a major problem, of course, with a storm that blew down internet towers. And of course, if you've ever been in a Philippines typhoon, you'll know just how bad they can be. So we're on backup power tonight. Hello to Mr. Harris, or S. Harris, who's just come in from Cardiff. Hello to everybody who is out there in X-Land and everybody who has come to watch the show this evening. We've got an absolutely packed program for you tonight. It's going to be kind of crazy. And of course, we're hoping, of course, that James Tweedy will come and join us at some stage. But for the time being, we're going to get on with what we were supposed to do, which is tell you what's been going on in the news. By the way, if you do miss this show, and of course you want to have something else, you can see us on unprecedented TV as well at 11 a.m. UK time, if of course this show is going out at the wrong time for you. So there you go. If you want to catch up with the first hour of the show, it's on there. Now the first hour of the show goes on here, and then of course we have to go behind a paywall because some of the things we have to show you can't go on YouTube and can't go on other places. Now, what we're going to talk about tonight is very, very simply the madness that is going on with, shall we say, not only the drones, but also with this area, which is called Pacross. Now, this is quite, shall we say, this has been an absolute crazy thing that has gone on, and we're going to get into bits and pieces with it. We've got James Tweedy about to join us, so before we start, we're going to bring James Tweedy into the show. 2 seconds here. Let's just get him in. This is our rep on Tuesday. James Tweedy. It is Tweedy Tuesday. And he should be joining us any second as we speak. And it is a good evening to James Tweedy, who, of course, is a correspondent from Sputnik. And, of course, we'll be having a chat with him in a second. So what is going on at the moment on the front line? Well, the cross, should we say, is one of those places that they definitely don't want to lose. And the problem that they have, and here's James now. Good evening, James. How are you?
Hi, Warren. How are you?
Absolutely fine. It's lovely to have you with us, James. We were just about to start talking about Pokrovsk and of course, the problems that have gone on there. Now, over the last couple of weeks, Zelensky has turned around and said, this must be held at all costs. And of course, they are throwing good men after bad into Pokrovsk. And what they're doing is they're pinching them from other areas to go into Pokrovsk. And of course, this is leaving them weak in other areas. Now, we'll get in, we're also going to talk about Kupiansk, because this is the area they've decided to take men from Pokrovsk and shove them into Kupiansk. So here we are. This is the area of Kupiansk which is being battled over at the moment. There are battles raging in the centre, and we'll come on to Pokrovsk in a second, because there's been some terrible things happening in Pokrovsk. But in Kupiansk, James, having borrowed men from everywhere, they're sort of holding back the fact that Kupiansk is going to collapse. But it's only a matter of time, isn't it? And it's weakened all other areas.
It's in a bad position. The Russians have surrounded it on 3 sides, and they're too close to. There's a couple of roads in and out, but the Russians are quite close to those roads, so they can use drones or artillery, or maybe even direct fire, things like tank guns or missile launchers. Guided missile launchers to hit things moving along the road. So you have a problem. And if you read the Russian army reports, there seem to be an awful lot of Ukrainian brigades fighting in those areas as well, Like, they don't list the numbers of they don't list the names of the brigades, their numbers, but they say that there's this many mechanized and this many, assault and this many marine and territorial defense and blah, blah, blah brigades fighting in those areas, you see. So there's a lot of troops concentrated in probably quite a small area.
Yes.
Too concentrated. So there's a problem. And the Russian Ministry of Defense released a statement today about what's going on in Kupiansk in particular, and they said that they control something like 5,500 out of 8,500 buildings in the city, right?
Yes. Yeah, it's and the problem that we have, James, isn't it? Because of course, Prokrovsk has really, should we say, where they borrowed men from all areas. Prokrovsk seems to be one of the areas that's really struggling. Because here's a map of Prokrovsk. Now, where you can see the red areas, this is where Russia have got all these incursions, and they've listed from people that we know in Ukraine have listed as those areas as being, shall we say, under siege. Can they hold on?
Yeah.
And can they hold on to Kupiansk?
No, I mean obviously not. They've lost more than half the city, so it's done for. And the Russian army is on the the Ukrainian side, so to speak, of the river.
Yes.
There's a river that runs north and south, and Kupiansk sits. It's called the Oskil River, and it runs down from the border with Russia, and it runs down to some of the basically key places on the front line. But Kupiansk is on the western bank of that, and the Russians managed to get across the river months ago, and they've been slowly expanding around. And they're pushing around the outside of the city, but they've already captured half of the city, they say, right? And they say there's all sorts of interesting units like neo-Nazi battalions and foreign legion type units, foreign volunteers or mercenaries or whatever you want to call them, in there. They've been sent in there, so if you take that at face value, then it's an interesting thing. There are all sorts of unofficial sources who maybe a bit dubious or a bit speculative who say that they're sending extra troops in there. There are several. What's going on really is that there are battles for 4 important cities all going on at once, and then there is another battle happening down in where in the kind of southwest a little bit, in the south anyway, where the Russian army is pushing into Dnepropetrovsk region, which they didn't really control any of before, before a few weeks or months ago, and now they're capturing a couple of villages a week or something. And then further west from that, over on the river Dnieper, there's a small battle going on. Not a lot is being said about it, for a town on the east bank of the river, and if they capture that, then it might be quite easy to march up to the city of Zaporozhia, which is a big city. It's
quite hard.
It's a big city,
Yeah.
It's not like the city of Pokrovsk, which is 30,000 people or 50,000 people. I mean, Zaporozhia is like 500,000 people or something. So you've got a problem. Or the Ukrainian army has a problem. There's lots of fighting going on, and where do you send your resources? So you only have finite resources, and this is the old sort of military problem, or the old strategy of you extend the front line if you've got more forces. If you've got the bigger army, you want to extend the front line until they've got nobody left, right? And if your army is smaller, you want to fight on a narrow front, like in a pass in some mountains or something, or on a bridge or something like that, right? It's easy to understand. But the front is very long, and they can't do anything about that. So
it is quite staggering, isn't it? Let's get Mark Breffel in. Mark.
Yeah, the Ukrainians have done a really brave one. They've gone into a place called Takino, and it's on the Kursk border, just to go and blow up a sewage factory. They said, I believe, about 12 men there, and they're all dead. I just don't get the brains with the Ukrainians. Why go to Kursk? There were thousands killed there last time. But James was saying about Procross, there must be 15 to 20 lots of different units all protecting that Procross. There must be either a lot of money in Procross, because Russia promised that they'd leave that alone so people could actually move back. The trouble is now they're all hiding in the high-rise buildings, so Russia will level that, and Russia will get blamed for that.
Yep, that's gonna happen. There's no question about that. We've got a lot of people who are tuning in that have just joined. The thing that we had, James Tweedy, as you say, there's 4 areas that are really getting sort of, shall we say, attacked at once. But they've started absolutely hammering Zaporizhzhia city. Let's have a little look. There's just one video. We've got a couple of videos for you to show you that Zaporizhzhia city is getting an absolute pounding. That's the wrong one. The problem that we have here, don't we, is they wouldn't want to lose Zaporizhzhia city, would they, James?
Well, that's not going to happen in the very near future. But no. I mean, if they do, I mean, the reason it's probably under attack now is because it's on a major supply route from the west of the country and from Poland and Romania to where the front line is in the east of the country. It's one of several cities that sits on major bridges along the Dnieper River, which is wide. Yeah. And so there's roads and rail lines that go through there. And so, I mean, it makes sense for, possible Russian targets in the city would be railway, railway marshalling yards and junctions and things like that. And but there will be also all sorts of military targets and arms factories and things like that producing drones or whatever in the city. So there's lots of things. There's lots of potential targets. I don't know what they hit. I don't know what exactly they hit. Actually, they did say something about it, didn't they? Because that was in revenge for a drone attack on civilians in Crimea. So let's see if we can find that horrible attack. Right. So this is the point. So there's all sorts of, but yeah, I mean, if the Russian army was able just to surround, besiege Zaporozhye city and not actually capture it, they would cut some very important supply lines, and it would make things very, very difficult for the Ukrainian army. Right, here we go. Let's see. Let's have a look.
So there's what we've got at the moment. As I say, we're watching pictures from around the Zaporizhzhia region, and of course they're starting to make headway there. It almost seems like they block one off just while you're getting up whatever you need to get up. Mark Reckle.
Yeah, one of those people that was holding the flag was a woman, actually. But I was going to ask you something, Warren. There's a place called Motor Seek plant in Zaporizhzhia. Do you know what that is, Warren? I've never heard of that one before. It was bombed for 2 days.
Yeah, James Tweedy.
It's quite famous, really. It's not that famous, obviously. It's a big factory. It's well known over there. They talk about it a lot.
Yeah.
And the Russian Ministry of Defense said that they hit it last night because it's a place which makes drones or engines for drones. What it's made is aero jet engines for very powerful, large, powerful aircraft like the Antonov 124 and 225, the giant one with 6 engines, They made those in the past, and they make other jet engines, turbofans, and things like that. But the Russian MOD said that it's also being used to produce drones, or is it engines for drones? Let's see what they said.
Yes.
Just double check that. Where attack drones used by the Kiev regime are assembled. So they're assembling the drones in that factory. Why not? Yes. It's a factory, so you've got workers, you've got a production line. So they hit that factory. And I don't think it's the first time they've hit it.
No. There is, of course, I mean, this is a sort of get back for obviously the bombing of the school in Crimea. I mean, some of that was quite disgraceful. Let's have a little look at that.
Школы, по словам очевидцев, сам беспилотный летательный аппарат пролетел через весь второй этаж здания и упал здесь, на спортивной площадке. Тут мы повсюду видим фрагменты этого беспилотника.
And the Russians were very, very upset about this. Mark Reckle.
Yeah, because it was originally a school, and then one of the builders changed it to a hospital. But I was worried because it was actually a party. This is how sick they are. There was a party there with children, but there's actually 3 soldiers was injured. And if you ever want to know the word for sanatorium in Russian, it's actually a health spa. So, yeah. And Skoli is a school. But I was very worried because obviously, you know, I've got friends in the Crimea.
Yes, you have. Yeah. James Tweedy, it's once again just attacking anything, isn't it? I mean, is it just a form of terrorism at this point now?
It's all about, I've said this before, it's all about trying to spread fear amongst the population. It's a form of terrorism, yes, and it's make people doubt, you know, question the government in the hope of making them, like, you know, getting them angry with the government for not defending them from this stuff and all that sort of thing. That's why they're targeting civilians, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And all that sort of thing. So that's what they do. So so there we go. Sorry, I'm trying to edit something. I am an editor, not a correspondent, and I'm trying to edit something.
Let's have a.
It's very bad. People's names have been spelled differently in the same very short.
There's something I do want to talk about here, and of course, it is something that we've all looked at and gone, "You've got to be absolutely crazy." Now, James, we've had some friends of ours tell us that they've spent over $4.7 million US in arranging netting along roads. With cold and everything else, and we're just going to see, obviously, when they're only done on one side, don't just fly over the other side and along. But we're going to show you exactly what happens when they blow a hole in this netting, and then they can just fly drones in. They can also fly mother drones in and drop off other drones along that area. So let's just have a little look what happened to one, should we say, one piece of one vehicle on the Ukrainian side when a drone could quite easily slip in under the net.
Okay, so it's inside the whole drone corridor.
Yes, exactly, inside the drone corridor. And unfortunately, none of them survived. But this seems a crazy thing, James, to spend money on this when it's easy to blow a hole in the netting and just fly drones in there.
Well, you have to expend one drone to get in there, so then it takes more than one drone.
But how crazy is that? Not, you know.
Well, I don't know what I mean. There are countermeasures. You have to basically build a very large number of electronic warfare systems that you can mount on everything, including possibly having them in the backpack of one member of an infantry squad, you know, and certainly on all the vehicles. And it takes time and money to do that, and not every vehicle obviously has an electronic warfare counter drone jamming, blah blah blah, set on it. You see, so you have to do other things. You put this cage armor on them to try and protect them, and things like that, because those warheads need to detonate sort of at a certain distance, like that, you know, like the length of the front cone on the warhead, right, from the armor. to get maximum penetration, right? All that sort of thing. But yeah, I mean, the nets probably do stop a certain number of them. If you're stopping a certain number, if you're reducing the number of them that get through, then it's effective. I don't know how much it. I mean, you say it costs millions and millions. Well,
4.7 million.
Yeah,
4.7 million has been spent on.
Yeah, but I mean, how much money is, like, for instance, Ukraine has had 100 billion.
Yes.
You know, from the West, or 200 billion or something, and the Russian defense budget is, I don't know, whatever it's supposed to be. You can't get reliable figures on that, but you know, maybe it's 50 billion or 100 billion a year. So it's not that much money, basically, and you're saving. You're possibly saving armored vehicles that cost millions to build, you know, or maybe, you know, or hundreds of thousands to build.
But it only takes a $2,000 drone to blow a hole in it.
Yeah, but I mean, that's the thing. So there's that whole thing, but the troops don't want to walk everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, they can ride. They don't want to ride around they don't particularly want to ride around in the back of a pickup truck.
No.
And they don't. And so they would rather have something that's armored. It makes them feel better about it. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah.
So, but you can't. Those things cost money, and you can't keep losing them.
As they do. Mark Reckle.
The thing is, though, it's 2.7 million to stop an owl, because an owl got stuck in one of the nets. But the thing is, though, there's another field. It was absolutely full of that fiber optic cables in the field.
Yes.
And that's going to take years to clear, surely. All that messing. Eventually, when Russia takes one of these, you know, that area, how do you clear all that?
Up to do. No question whatsoever. I am going to come out with something positive in a second, but I'm going to show you this first. This is in Santinica. The drones are so deadly, James Tweedy, because it's like having directed artillery fire, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, they're accurate. I mean, one of the reasons they're cheap is that they're using a warhead from an RPG-7 or something like that. You know,
yeah.
A very cheap anti-tank weapon. It's effective. It's very cheap. You know, it's not guided, but you gaffer tape it or clamp it or something onto one of these little quadcopter drones, one that's big enough to lift it.
Yes.
And you can. It's even better than, say, an anti-tank missile, because that flies very fast, and you guide it in. You know, from the launcher, the person with the launch who fires the launcher guides it in, but you know, it's going to hit on the side that you're firing it from. It can't. But the quadcopter can stop. It can go around trees or around the back of a wall or a house or something.
Yeah.
And it can look at it's got a camera on it, so that the operator can look at what is actually there, right? You know, there's a vehicle. Has it already been knocked out? You know, is it just a burnt out wreck or something? And then find like a weak spot. What they know is a weak spot, and find it. This thing with the nets. I saw a video of a Ukrainian self-propelled gun. It was a British-made one, I think. It was an AS-90, and they had nets all over it and things. Or they had, you know, so they used several drones to blow holes, so one could get through and actually hit the armor directly.
Yeah, and of course there is one. We have shown one where they literally chase an armored vehicle, 6 or 7 drones chasing an armored vehicle across an open field once they've managed to get it out of the netting. Mark Reckle, very quickly.
Yeah, there was an actual Ukrainian guy changed into his uniform, So he acted civilian clothes, and the actual drone followed him and killed him. And that's how accurate they are.
Yeah, they are. Let's have a little look at this, because here's a positive thing. A Russian gentleman, very, very simply here, is deciding, as he works for Sputnik, I think he's probably on the Russian side, James. The very, very simple, but I think James is one of them, wants to see an end to the killing. So do I. Because it's absolutely pointless that Ukraine is still carrying on, but of course NATO and the mass murderers there want to carry on. This is a Russian who's carried his injured comrade 2.5 kilometers under fire to safety. Oh, James, I've carried somebody 70 yards off a battlefield before. Carrying someone, as someone who's ever done the army training or anything with the logs or carried other people and everything else, that's some feat, isn't it? 2.5 kilometers carrying a guy off the battlefield.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
That it? Okay. Right.
Obviously. Okay. Yeah. Yes. It's. I mean, maybe, he must have really liked the guy.
One of them, you don't leave anybody behind, do you? Mark Breckle?
Yeah, the Russian guys are so strong. I've seen them in nightclubs before the actual war started, and the scrapping and they're in the muscle tops. They look after themselves. They make sure they're very, very.
The adrenaline kicks in as well, which helps.
Oh yeah, but like you said, to carry someone that way, all that distance, you've got to be trained.
So does the lactic acid, trust me, because your heart's pumping so fast and you're burning sugar like you wouldn't believe. Sean Murphy.
He must have been absolutely knackered by the time he got there, Warren. I remember, and I'm sure you do, doing CFTs where you done your march and then done your range work and the assault course, and then you had to carry your mate and all his kit and your kit in a fireman's carry, 200 meters, and you were on your chin strap, and you were fit.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
he must have been super fit.
I think the worst ones, if you go outside of Ash Ranges, there are some sand hills, 1 in 3 hills, and you have to pick somebody on your shoulder and go up there as fast as you can. By the time you get to the top of there, wow,
running on sand.
Yeah, you are. You're running on empty. But one thing I will say is, because the adrenaline is kicking in when you're in the battlefield, the lactic acid build up in your legs because you're burning sugar so fast is quite incredible. Let's get into these bits and pieces because this needs to be addressed. I don't know about you, James, but I have absolutely had it to the back teeth with all the nonsense that we are getting regarding our favourite topic of the moment, shall we say, is all of these drones and everything else that is flying around that, of course, everybody is saying is a problem. We've now got drones over the sky in Copenhagen. The Danish PM cannot rule out Russian involvement, and he can't rule it in either. let me get into this, James, because I haven't seen you for a week. They
Yeah.
closed Copenhagen Airport. Norway are now saying their airspace is violated. Estonia feel like they've been violated. There's a lot of people been violated. The problem that we have, James, is we've had von der Leyen with her aircraft. We've had the idiotic drone scenario going into Romania and then going back into Ukraine. And of course, the foam drones, literally has everybody foaming at the mouth. So this nonsense, this narrative, I got it down that they want a no-fly zone. Other people are saying it's because the Americans are withdrawing troops from the Baltics. What's your thought?
A few years ago, my mum and her sister, my stepmother, not my mother, and her sister were coming to visit here from South Africa, and their flight into Heathrow got delayed because I think it was called Just Stop Oil, which is a spin-off of Extinction Rebellion.
Yes.
Flew a drone over Heathrow, a small one over Heathrow, over the Heathrow Airport site, and that sparked a kind of security alert, which stopped and all the planes had to be diverted. You see? So I think they ended up at another airport. Two elderly women, and I was pissed off about it. But the most likely culprit is someone like that. It's some environmental campaign that doesn't want people going on holiday in planes.
That's a good shout, because to be honest with you, that is something that never crossed my mind.
It's happened before. This sort of thing has happened before.
Yes.
And then it could just be pranksters. It could just be some idiots who thought it would be funny.
Yes.
But what benefit does Russia get from? I mean, they can't prove it was Russian. They couldn't even. They did not. They said they didn't intercept the drones, I think. So they haven't even got the drones or something. I don't know. So you've got to prove they were Russian. You have to show something. Were they hovering, quadcopter type drones, or were they?
Yeah, I mean these
ones. They would know because of the way they flew.
Yeah, these
right, because a quadcopter can hover in place, so it would stop and be hanging there in the air, and all that sort of thing. So but how does Russia benefit from that anyway? Why would Russia do that? What's the point? You like delay a few flights. It doesn't.
James, to put you up on this, because Estonia have taken proof to the UN. Look, they've taken two photographs, two images, which could have just been pulled off of X, and tried to pass that off as proof that the Russian MiG-31s entered their airspace. I mean,
when they say airspace, they're talking about airspace over the sea.
We're talking a rock in the middle of nowhere, aren't we, basically?
Well, there's a very small island called Vindaloo Island, right? But they said they flew near it. The track that they're showing on that, the aircraft, the course, is over the sea, and it's over the Gulf of Finland. And on the north side, you've got Finland, and on the south side, you've got Estonia, and on the east side, you've got Russia. And Russia flies planes out from there all the time, because you know what, Russia is not at war with Finland or Estonia or any other country like that. They fly planes out all the time. They fly military aircraft out all the time to go to Kaliningrad,
yes.
East Prussia, which is part of Russia, right down between Poland and Lithuania. And they sail ships out of there as well, and in theory, all of that sea is either the national waters, coastal waters of Estonia or Finland, because the Gulf is so narrow.
Yes.
But they are permitted to do so, and they have an agreement to do so. And they're just trying. All they're really saying is that they strayed off the agreed corridor or something like that, but they didn't even fly over Estonia, any Estonian land, and they didn't attack anything. They didn't fire missiles at anything or bomb anything, right? They just flew out and on a scheduled flight to Kaliningrad. So it's an immense storm in a teacup.
Yes,
and you know, there's all sorts of things that, you know, they can't retaliate. You know, and there's no use threatening Russia over this because Russia didn't do anything wrong, really.
Yeah.
And there's no use saying, well, this could provoke. I mean, was it Yvette Cooper, our new foreign secretary, said that this could provoke an armed confrontation or something? Well, how's it going to do that? I mean, are you going to shoot at them?
Yeah.
You know, are you going to shoot them down? Then you're the one starting World War III, you know.
Yeah, exactly that. But then
that's an airline flight. What's that flying over there? Looks like
that is the drone. That is the drone.
Okay.
So
it's showing lights.
Yes. Yeah. You got all.
I mean, if it's showing lights, it's probably friendly. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly that.
It's just off course or something.
But this is what shut down Copenhagen Airport. So I mean, it's not like it's a tiny drone. It's absolutely massive. Mark Rappel.
Again, if you look at, there's a heavy transport aircraft, AN-124, was flying low down in Moscow because of Ukrainian drones. The thing is, though, if that had been a passenger plane and it had crashed in the center of Moscow, the amount of people killed, can you justify? You know, they're not bothered about these drones, you know, going around Moscow, obviously damaging the buildings and nearly killing people. But they make a big fuss when the drones are going all over Estonia and places like that and not doing anything. The hypocrites. It just makes me annoyed when things like that happen.
It is quite staggering to watch. So the one thing I want to get out, Sean Murphy wants a word on this, Sean.
Oh, just looking at that bit of footage of that drone, Warren, it looked like a Cessna because it had navigation lights, it had its right and left wingtip lights. It's too easy to put green talc or, you know, green cellophane or green filter over your landing lights.
Yeah,
and it had all its navigation lights and its red beacons going. I don't think there was anything particularly suspicious about that. If you were flying a drone in there, you wouldn't be displaying all those lights.
No, I wouldn't have thought so. But you know how we say these people get upset.
Well, it's got to be seen as it is. Got to be seen, hasn't it? They want people to see it.
Yeah. I mean, we've got a problem with how can I put this? Like your sort of NATO coming out with all sorts of ridiculous things. I mean, they've come out and said, "Oh, you know, we can't have this and we can't have that," and you know, Russia are up to this and Russia are up to that. What I was going to ask you, James, which I didn't get your thing on. NATO issued a statement saying this incursion is a part of a wider pattern of increasing irresponsible Russian behaviour. This is the second time in 2 weeks that the North Atlantic Council has met under Article 4, which is nothing more than a cuddle, you know, and a quick chat to say, are you all right? On September the 10th, the Council held consultations in response to the large-scale violation of Polish airspace by Russian drones, not yet proved that they were launched by Russia, even though Russia have said work with us and we'll try and find out. Several other allies, including Finland, Latvia, Lithuania, Norway and Romania, have also recently experienced airspace violations by Russia. They have not proven at all that they were by Russia. We must express full solidarity with all allies whose airspace has been breached. Russia bears full responsibility for these actions. No, they don't. they claim no responsibility for that whatsoever, which are escalatory. No, they're not. Risk miscalculation and endanger lives. They must stop. Well, whoever's launching them must stop doing it. NATO's response to Russia's reckless actions, unproven, will continue to be robust. The problem that we have, our commitment to Article 5 is ironclad. Everybody keeps worrying about Article 5. Article 5 is a more serious chat than Article 4. The problem that we have here, Jane, can you give me the reason? I mean, is it because America are pulling out, because America are reducing the weapons? Do you think it's because they want to make a no-fly zone? What reason are they doing this to escalate, James, for you? James?
There's a lot of people who still want the war to continue. As a lot of them are in the US. In fact, some of them are in the US government. You know.
Yeah.
And they just want, So this is a way of doing it. I mean, it also, from Poland's perspective, being, it draws attention to them. And so other countries will send. Other NATO countries will send forces to Poland, and then Poland won't have to,
Yeah.
Poland's already got like the biggest army in NATO after the US or something, but they want to concentrate NATO forces in their country. It's good for them, They probably make money by having them there. And there's all those reasons. I mean, I think they haven't. They've admitted that all those pictures of drones that have crashed may be fake because they haven't actually found any wreckage yet. So there you go.
Yeah.
There's all sorts of I mean, some countries are led by crazy people who want to have a direct war with Russia. Some people in the USA, like people in positions of power, think that the USA can fight a war with Russia and win, and it won't just turn into a nuclear holocaust.
Yes.
So there are people who are that crazy out there, And of course, it benefits Ukraine. The Ukrainian government wants all of this. It wants all of this stuff to happen. They don't care about anything, and they want the NATO to intervene directly in the war in Ukraine, and they don't care if that leads to World War III. Right?
Yeah.
So that's why I've got no time for the Ukrainian government. I've said that a few times on this program.
Yeah. Sean Murphy.
Well, they, people like Flimsy Graham and, his ilk in the American government are wholeheartedly topping up the Cayman Island bank accounts of the Ukrainian leadership. That's all they're doing because the money's not going there to benefit anybody in Ukraine. It's going into the pockets of the corrupt Ukrainian politicians and people like Zelensky.
Yeah. Well, let's have a look. Mark Breckle.
Well, the Russians' answer to it, every drone that's fired towards Russia, Russia sends a load of fab bombs where the actual sending. So they're getting very annoyed at the minute.
Yes. And of course, the Zelensky clown show just turned up at the UN, as it always does. It turns up to an opening of an envelope. But we've had our fair share of clowns when it comes to this. Let's have a little listen to this.
Compass. And our compass is the two-state solution. Since the beginning of this war, Europe has been the lifeline of the Palestinian Authority. But we must all do more. And this is why we will set up a Palestine donor group. We Europeans will set up a dedicated instrument for Gaza's reconstruction.
Now, anybody who's seen the various programs we've had where we've shown you literally what they're going to be doing with Gaza, they're not up for a two-state solution. They're up for the money they're going to make off the rebuild. Mark Breckle.
That proves it, doesn't it? your blueprints, your nice, your nice holiday flats, and Trump Tower in it just shows you, doesn't it? You cannot trust the West.
And of course, how can we put it? Kaya Kallis, or as some people call her, Nazi Norma, has turned up as well.
I say this openly to Russian representative in this room. Your government's actions are reckless, dangerous, and go against the very principles of the United Nations. Our response is united and firm. First, we stand in full solidarity with Estonia, Poland, and Romania. Second, we collectively condemn Russian sovereignty violations. And third, the European Union will continue to help strengthen European defense and deterrence.
Now, she's getting awful stick for this, James Tweedy, but she's getting stick for more than that. Let's get into... So what has happened over the last day or two, James? And this is very, very strange. Now, I'm going to read you the full readout. Now, the 12th Zhangshan Forum took place in China's capital. Among the 1,800 military strategists, politicians, diplomats, and academics from 100 different countries, no German officials participated. However, BSW foreign policy expert Severin Dalgaden was present as a participant, and she said she was reporting on the Global South perspective of the war. Now, the focus was on assessing the international geopolitical situation 80 years after, of course, the victory over fascism. Now, China, as far as they're concerned, they have been insulted, and they said that it is striking the European political establishment is completely oblivious to how much diplomatic crockery its representatives are breaking. Recent statements by the EU's High Representative for Foreign Affairs, Kaya Kallis, have caused great annoyance and anger. On behalf of the EU, the Estonian questioned the claim that China and the Soviet Union played a decisive role in the victory over Nazi Germany and Japanese militarism. This is an absolute insult, as over 20 million Chinese lost their lives fighting the Japanese. Against the backdrop of such tactless statements, the question arises, have EU political leaders gone mad? The statement from one of the EU's most senior officials cannot simply be dismissed as delusional or ignorant. Particularly noteworthy is the fact that Kallis's crude interpretation of history elicited no protest from the heads of state of government of Germany, France, Poland, Italy, and the UK. Therefore, Kallis's historical judgment should be understood as a sign of EU policy aimed at rewriting history when necessary to justify a war in a historical and politically motivated matter. She was the only one. We didn't see any official representatives from them, and as far as we know, of course, refusing to participate in the forum and not sending ministers, as many other countries did, is a statement that behind the scenes there was frequent talk of the US successfully exerting pressure on the Europeans. Indeed, among the 1,800 participants from around 100 countries, there was not a single high-ranking EU representative. It's clear that Brussels are acting like obedient vassals to the US. And if the Chinese do not use this forum to discuss political and economic strategies and leave room for maneuver for the Americans, then they are doing exactly what when we are doing exactly what the Americans want. This borders on masochism and absolute submissiveness. A major topic at the conference was Ukraine. And the Chinese have asked Kaya Kallis, what did you manage to discuss? The West wants to continue the fighting in Ukraine at any cost, and is therefore breaking and blocking negotiations. That's pretty damning from the Chinese towards Kaya Kallis, isn't it, James? James? Oh, your mic is off, James.
You have to remember she's not the foreign minister of a country.
Yes.
The EU isn't a country, you know.
But they
so she's getting too big for her boots in that respect. But you can also criticize her in ways that maybe you wouldn't criticize the foreign minister of a sovereign state. But yeah, I mean, the way she's talking at the UN, I've heard that kind of rubbish from the US and British and French envoys to the UN before in the Security Council, which is supposed to discuss serious things, right? And you get that all the time, you know, and you get a certain amount of it from the Russians too, to be honest. And they should know better than to do that, but they do it. And so she's just copying that. The EU, of course, I mean, it's empty coming from Callas because, like I say, she's not the foreign minister of a country. She's not part of a government. She's part of an organization in Europe, which, you know, you may think it's incredibly powerful or may not, but it's not a sovereign state, and it's not a military organization, right? So she can't make threats. She can't back up threats. She can make threats, but she can't back them up, right? She can't actually take any action against anyone, you see. So Russia doesn't have to take it seriously. I mean, the Chinese are annoyed with her. Then, I mean, China takes things like the European Union seriously because they do deals with the European Union for bilateral trade, you know, which the USA is trying to get the EU to stop.
Callas managed to spill a cup of coffee all over the Chinese envoy, Wang Yi. You're just like, you know, I mean, she can't control herself in a room full of diplomats. It seems rather strange.
Yeah.
Mark Reckle, and then we'll come back to James. Mark.
Again, Maria Zakharova was mentioning it as well. She gets so annoyed with the UN and that, and as soon as anything's stupid, they say she's onto them straight away, and she's so factual. She's a very good knowledge.
Yeah, she is one of those. James Tweedy, people like Kaya Callas shouldn't be in positions they're in, should they? If they can't be diplomatic, I mean, after all, that's what the role is, isn't it?
No, they're not a diplomat. I mean, a diplomat is someone who works for the civil service, who works in an embassy. I mean, okay, yeah, they are meant to, you know, join talk. You know, they are meant to go to talks, and they are meant to make deals with people, and they should be able to talk to people, without arguing with them. But she, like I said, she's not the foreign minister of anywhere.
Yeah.
So she's not a diplomat. She's a politician. She's not the foreign minister of a country. She's a commissioner of the EU, and she's not speaking for anybody. Right? She's just speaking for herself. So you know, you can't go to war with the EU because the EU is not a country, and the EU can't go to war with anyone else. I mean, so the amount of damage that she can do is kind of limited. You know. Yeah. By the way, China does not want to cut off trade with the EU, so that is not going to happen. What might conceivably happen is that the EU cuts its own throat by cutting, you know, putting 100% tariffs on China like Donald Trump wants. But you know, they probably aren't. Because the governments will say, well, no, we don't want you to do that. That would cost us a load of money.
Yeah. Okay. Let's get into this then, because this is something that I do want to tackle, because I think this is something that's going to be get worse and worse and worse. When we're talking about all the stuff that is going on there at the moment, and of course there are many people that sort of look at the situation that is going on there. And get very, very upset about it, because there are, how can I put this? There's people dying all the time, and we're getting lots and lots of corruption and everything else, and they just seem to want loads and loads of money. I mean, they're even selling gear online like this. You know, you can buy a Western sleeping bag. You know, you can buy a British or a NATO sleeping bag online. People are actually selling, and I mean, from everything from selling boxes of ammunition that should go to the guys who are trying to keep themselves alive to these sort of things. I mean, where do you draw the line here? Where do you sort of go, while and at the same time they're going around bombing schools in Crimea and stuff? Where do Ukraine are friendless, aren't they? Where do they find friends apart from in the EU?
Well, that's where they find that's where their friends are, and Australia and New Zealand, a few other countries like South Korea. In fact, South Korea isn't all that bothered about it, but they're selling arms to them. They're happy to make money from it. The problem for Ukraine is that it really is over because the NATO countries haven't got much left to give in terms of arms. The major stuff has already come, has already been sent, and that's that. And a lot of it's been destroyed, maybe way more than half, and of some things, I mean. And yeah, they're just there's nothing left to come. The EU can't, the only way that NATO can help them is by getting into the war directly, which everyone knows what that means, right? Yeah. So that's why you get these provocations. But basically, the begging is pointless now. Just sort of pretending that they're winning the war is
that's brilliant.
Is all they've got left, basically.
Yeah. Okay. This is something that I do want to get into now. I think we've been on that for long enough. And of course, we've had Ruta and various people starting to walk it back. So it's looking like that's going to be the end of that nonsense. Something I do want to get into now, which I thought something we need to tackle. And of course, you may think completely different. But there's been a lot of talk about this. It's been ramping up for a few weeks now, James Tweedy.
Digital ID for me is a very big part of the future, and let me explain why. So if you take the changes, you've been making at Sberbank, because you've become not just a bank but also a technology company, right? And you've been using technology to change the whole way you interact with your customers. So digital ID is for me absolutely crucial because, for example, on COVID, what is the problem with this coronavirus? The problem is it's not a disease that's so serious that it's like the plague, right? Most people who get it will survive it. However, it's bad enough, and we all know people who've had it and had it badly enough that you don't want to get it. So the problem is you have to lock down the entire economy in order to deal with the small number of people who get it and are going to suffer badly. A way out of this is to be able to test people several times and for people to actually have a biometric identity which can say, look, I've been tested, or I've had the disease and here are my antibodies, so that life can get back to normal. So your digital ID can play a part in COVID, but also if you think of the transactions that you want to do now with your customers, it's much simpler for them if they have a digital identity. Or you take the big issue in the Western world today, which is, quite apart from COVID, I would say is worries about immigration, who has the right to be in your country, who has the right not to be. Without a form of identity, it's very hard to tell who's got a right to be in a country, who's not. So inevitably, governments are going to move in this direction. Absolutely inevitably.
So we've got that, obviously, from him. And then we've also got someone else who belongs in prison, Christine Lagarde.
Many people are a little worried about what will happen to them with the digital euro. Can you encourage them? Why is the digital euro good for people like you and me?
a digital currency where it has been piloted, and there is only one which is clearly now launched in a very small country, but it is piloted on a fairly large scale in China, is of use and of service to all citizens. So it is not something that is good for the elite, or is good for the young, or is good for some versus others. If it is well done and if it is well implemented,
they're pushing this hard, aren't they, Jane? You need to turn your mic on, but mic on.
Sorry. It's Tony Blair's been pushing for this since he became Prime Minister back in 1997.
Yes.
You know, he always wanted an ID card. And people are against it for lots of reasons. It's just like something else that you have to pay for. And then, you know, the police will... What happens if you're walking down the street and the police stop you and they say, "Where are your papers?" or something, you know?
Yes.
And, you know, you don't have your ID card on you, so you have to carry it at all times and make sure you don't lose it. And then all sorts of things about, you know, like he wants the biometric identity. So that's going to have your fingerprint. He always, that was another thing Tony Blair wanted. He wanted everyone's fingerprint and everyone's DNA sample on a database, you know, to turn up hundreds of false positives every time they're looking for a suspect. That's what that would do. There you go. But basically, then, you know, like if they've got your DNA sequence, I mean, they can sort of profile you for things in future. You know, oh, this person's more at risk or something. Maybe they should. This person's more at risk of cancer. Maybe they should pay more tax or something like that. There's all sorts of crazy things that you can dream up about what they would do with it. But they would probably try and track you. They might try and block transactions with a digital currency. The thing is, how do you pay for things nowadays? Most people are paying for stuff on their cards and everything is digital. Everything's computerized. And you talk about printing money, governments printing money, especially the US government. They don't print money. That would cost money to print money, right? They just like go on a computer and like change the 1 in front of the trillion to 2. Yes. You know, and that's how much money is available in the economy or something like that, you know? Yes. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Always putting more money into the economy. And they can do that because the currency is used for international trade or whatever. But you see, so transactions are computerized anyway, and you can trace them and you can monitor them and you could potentially block them. You could people in Canada during that, he was talking about the COVID pandemic, Blair was, I mean.
Yeah.
During the COVID pandemic in Canada, there were all those protests by truckers. They didn't want to have to get vaccinated to cross the border, and you know, they're driving trucks across the borders all the time, right? So they all drove into Ottawa, the capital, and honked their horns, and you know, apparently it intimidated Justin Trudeau, and then they blocked their bank accounts. They froze everyone's bank accounts so they couldn't feed themselves, you know? Yeah, so there you go. You can do all that to people now, you know, but nobody really wants it. Nobody wants a currency. Nobody wants the state creating a cryptocurrency with nothing to back it, which then fluctuates, you know, wildly in value. So you don't know how much money you've got from day to day.
We get into the realms of films like In Time, then, where you only get so much money for your, you know, you've got to work another 32 hours to earn the same amount of money you did a few years ago. Lee Williams wanted to have a quick word. Yeah, then Mark Reckle. Then we've got to end the first
20 seconds for a description. Number one, Tony Blair was a barrister that obviously he probably went to, let's say, universities and whatever. Two, he represented the Labour Party, as much we trust Starmer. Thirdly, when he was done this digital with Brown and all the rest of them, let's say we would say rest in peace to the 2 million people that have lost their lives in Iraq, and he did get £1 or £2 from it. And obviously, why are people still actually listening to that perk? In my opinion,
you've got a good point. Well made, Mark Reckle.
Again, I think digital ID is probably going to be a good thing because, to be honest with you, when I got into Russia, you had to go to the passport control, do all that for 20 minutes. Then you go 14 hours on a train into the city that you're staying in, go to registration and stand there for about another hour, 2 hours with a lot of Russians that you can't speak the language, and to make sure that they know where you are. So it's
okay, fair point.
Definitely an easier process.
Yeah, fair point. Eric Jones.
What about the elderly who don't even know what email is? What are they going to do?
Yeah, exactly.
You know? I mean, do you think they're not going to be frightened? I mean, come on.
That's a quality point. Well said.
I always have, I always think about that. I'm not quite so young as I used to be, and sometimes I have to get onto the doctor, mostly just to get a repeat prescription. I have to keep having some bogus review. But to get an appointment, you have to do an online consultation. So you have to have internet access. You have to know what you're doing. Most of the people who go and see the doctor are over 60 or over 65, right?
Yep.
And they're asking them questions like, does your gender identity differ from your biological sex or something, or your birth, your assigned gender at birth or something? And it's like, what does any of that mean to an old person? They don't know what that means.
No, exactly.
And all this nonsense. But it's excluding them from going to see the doctor because the doctors don't want to see any patients anymore.
No, exactly that. If you are watching online, you'll have to come across, if you're watching live on the live stream. If you're not part of WarrenThornton.com, this is where we say goodbye to you. But we've got a much longer show going on afterwards. And of course, we have to go behind a paywall for that. We'll be talking about the Philippines riot. We'll be showing pictures of the US Lebanese children. We'll be talking about Palestine. We'll be talking about Nepal. We'll be talking about the shadow fleet, sex offenders. We'll also be talking about Rubio in Asia. We'll be talking about the Boeing and Bloomberg on the climate madness. We'll also be talking about many other things, including transgender violence, the Peru police, electromagnetic launching of planes, the DARPO neuroscience, Antifa being branded a terrorist organization, Russia and Iran, Orban, and of course BlackRock, the Chinese Air Force, and hot air ballooning in the middle of your high street. But for the time being, we've got to say goodbye to that. Goodbye to that. All comes in the second half of the show.